Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk a little bit more about short Fat Otaku, who has chosen to continue to self-sabotage and is doubling down and now tripling down on censoring people who dare call him bad faith. With of course what exactly constituting bad faith being determined by Dev himself, who presumably became god of determining what is and isn't bad faith after the previous owner of that particular title tragically died. Unfortunately for Dev, he hasn't exactly gotten the same reaction this time that he did when he spread the news to his Discord server, because it turns out Discord servers tend to have your far more loyal fanbase section who have a habit of being far more lenient to screw-ups than the general audience themselves. And as a result, Dev is now facing an open revolt from his own community, not only getting thoroughly trashed in the comments section of his community post, but also of course losing subscribers as well. For what it's worth, the community post itself is mostly, though not entirely, a copy and paste of a single paragraph from the post that he made on Discord, with the remainder of the community post being him touching up on the fact that people have reacted towards the Discord post and not exactly in a way that he wanted. So the actual community post itself isn't really that much worth going over, because I've pretty much already covered it in a previous video. What is worth going over though is the image provided along with the community post. Now to start off, and yes, this is a bit of a nitpick, but it is very clear that Dev is relatively new when it comes to providing images of YouTube comments on community posts. I say this because there's a reason I tend to provide links to the image files I use, because the comments in the image form of the community post can actually be rather difficult to read at times, and this is no exception. For the record, I also, where possible, make a point of leaving a link to the actual conversation so people can read the conversation in full and get the full context. On top of course providing their own feedback to the actual original conversation itself, should they choose to do so. Like I said, this is ultimately a nitpick, but should Dev be watching, well, consider this feedback on how to improve your community posts. Anyways, getting into the image that Dev provides, it shows Dev stating, quote, "So here's the thing, I do my best to be as truthful as possible. I'm not perfect, but I do really well at that. Being bad faith means specifically to say a thing that you know is a lie, in order to deceive the person you're talking to, aka you know the truth and you are purposely not saying it for a malicious reason. If you believe I am bad faith, then you believe I am malicious. You believe I am knowingly lying to you for some evil end. Why would you want to be around me if that were the case? And if I'm not being bad faith, but you accuse me of it, from my point of view, that means you think I'm evil, and any justification I can give you can handwave as a lie because I'm bad faith. The position you're taking up here is Vosh telling Count Dankula I don't believe what you're saying. If that's the case, then we cannot have a conversation at all, and you have deliberately poisoned the well towards future conversations. This is why calling me bad faith is a bannable offense, because if I am good faith and you call me bad faith, you destroy my ability to have conversations with yourself and others, now and in the future, and you have already marked me off as an enemy, so I will treat you the same. And if I actually am bad faith, you should actually reject me and treat me as an enemy anyway." So yeah, that's Dev's argument for why he believes that calling him bad faith should be a bannable offense. He sees the accusation itself to be so severe that not only does it completely derail the conversation, but also hampers any future potential for conversation as well. He also believes that since you are calling him bad faith, you are considering him to be an enemy, and so he's left to wonder why you would even want to bother watching him in the first place if that were the case. So now that we know Dev's reasoning, allow me to tackle some of his arguments, because there are definitely holes in his logic here. First start, the idea that the accusation of bad faith itself completely derailing the possibility for conversation is not really true. Yes, it does tend to cause the conversation to change direction for obvious reasons, but to say that it completely is unproductive or derails the conversation outright is not actually true. Consider the example that Dev provided of the debate between Vosh and Count Dankula, the debate where Count Dankula very famously crushed Vosh, because it turns out that accusing another person of being bad faith isn't an automatic I win button. For the accusations to hold any meaningful weight, you have to provide actual evidence, as well as reasonably tackle any evidence the person you're talking to actually provides. I myself can provide numerous examples of people calling me bad faith, only for me to provide evidence backing up my claims, only for them to proceed to immediately ignore and pretend that I did didn't actually provide any evidence whatsoever. Now, the untrained eye may see this as me not having accomplished anything in this conversation. Those who are more astute, however, will have noticed that not only have I managed to successfully discredit the notion that I'm arguing in bad faith, but also in doing so, I have managed to turn the tables by providing very real evidence that the person that made the accusation against me is arguing in bad faith because they chose to ignore the evidence I provided, presumably with the hope that nobody noticed that they ignored all the evidence I provided. So yes, the idea that a bad faith accusation immediately derails the entire argument and makes it fundamentally unproductive is simply not true. As for the second argument that Dev makes, the idea that if you're an enemy that I shouldn't be paying attention to what you have to say and what you're trying to do, well, if there's any clip that provides my thoughts on that particular position, it would have to be this.
Every once in a while I hear something so ignorant I have to respond. This is one of those times.
I don't know what political philosopher Dev follows that has made him believe that ignoring your opposition is a good idea, but I believe I have to delve a little bit into my own history with philosophy to explain thoroughly enough just how much of a self-sabotage I believe this notion is on Dev's part. I'll openly admit my entry into the subject of philosophy was an unusual path. That is a journey that I did not begin with the likes of Aristotle or Plato. My entry into philosophy came from minds such as von Clausewitz, Machiavelli, and especially Sun Tzu. This is because my study of philosophy began as a branch of my study into military history itself, so naturally my outlook on things may be a little bit different than someone like Dev. What is important to the conversation here, though, is what such philosophical thinkers thought of the act of ignoring what your enemy is doing. To put it simply, Sun Tzu was very clear about knowing both yourself and your enemy. This is why I personally have taken such special interest in reading the philosophical works of my enemies. I have no difficulty in saying that I have studied more socialist philosophy than I have any other philosophy, which by contrast I don't deem to be a threat. I study these socialist philosophies with the explicit intent of learning their weaknesses, and how best to use those weaknesses against them. With this in mind, Dev's position that you should just ignore what your enemy has to say and what their actions are, well, that position on Dev's part is not only self-sabotaging, but also fundamentally anti-intelligence. If anything, the rational thing to do with regards to people you consider to be enemies is to keep all the more watchful an eye on them. Or as the old saying goes, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. To me, the only actual logical explanation for Dev's actions is that he knows he is unable to win. He knows that these are accusations that he simply cannot actually beat. Or to put it once again into the words of Sun Tzu, if fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight even though the ruler forbid it. If fighting will not result in victory, then you must not fight even at the ruler's bidding. Simply put, there is no way that Dev can beat the accusations of bad faith when there's people like me who can provide images of Dev arguing that it's perfectly forgivable for Joe Biden to try to steal an election, which Dev, by the way, admitted he tried to do, but at the exact same time, the Eastman memo somehow makes Trump completely unforgivable. Such blatant examples of double standards on Dev's part are definitive proof that he argues in bad faith, which is why I make a point of showing this example whenever the conversation of Dev being bad faith comes up. On that subject, I will of course be leaving a link in the description below to not only the original community post, but also the tweet thread in question of Dev being bad faith, so you can check them both out for yourself if you should so desire. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.